So on the money front, of course, speaking from the city's perspective and city finances, this is kind of the, the long and the short of it. Bottom line is we still don't have any money. We are a couple $1 million out, although we've taken steps even in the last couple of months administratively to reduce our expenses. But when we adopted the budget back at the end of June, we made some assumptions about labor concessions that didn't come to pass. We needed about $3 million in concessions. We got about $1 million in concessions, so we were about $2 million out. So other things kind of went our way, other things didn't go our way. So bottom line, we had about $2 million that we knew we'd have to address by the end of the budget year to make sure that we end on budget. And then of course, looking out over our 5-year projections, when we passed the budget, it represented the first time in many, many years that the city of Fresno was balanced with its operating funds, structurally balanced, both in this fiscal year as well as looking out over the next 5 years. So the fact that we're $2 million out, that throws off our 5-year projections. But as we work to address that, we will be in pretty good shape. So I guess there's good news and bad news in that. The last budget that was adopted, except for the shortfall that we're experiencing because of the labor concessions we didn't get, I feel like we at least got our head up out of the water and looking out over a 5-year projection, like we could see the land, but we were still a long way from the land, right? So getting our bodies all the way up onto the land and away from the deep depths of the ocean, what that looks like is roughly about $46 million. And let me explain that number. Right now we've got about $26 million in negative fund balances that we need to address. We need to aggressively pay down that debt. A year and a half ago, we were at $36 million. We took our remaining general fund reserve, which really we could not spend because of the size of our negative fund balances. It meant we could no longer, if you've got, you all know this, right? If you've got like a checking account that is $36 million in the hole, and you've got a savings account that's $10 million to the good, you can't spend the $10 million, right? Yeah, you have to like at least apply it towards the $36 million hole. So that's essentially what we had to do. But in every case, except for our parking fund, the departments have about a 2-year plan to pay down that debt and relieve those negative fund balances. The parking fund balance is about $13 million. So in the next couple of years, we'll have relieved about another $13 million of negative fund balances, and then we'll have that chunk. Now, the parking fund, we're no longer allowing to, we were in a pattern of just letting the enterprise go deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole, and thinking that at some point downtown was going to pick up, parking revenue was going to pick up, and then we would grow our way out of the hole. Well, in a very short period of time, the hole got really deep really fast. And so it was very clear that we could no longer continue to just assume we would grow our way out of it. And so we had to stop the practice this last budget year. Now we're funding the debt service out of our general fund, which was a $2.5 million shock to the general fund. So all of that to say, we've got to get rid of those negative fund balances. And then based on the size of the city that we are, and what our rating agencies tell us, we should have about $20 million on hand as emergency cash reserve. And that's going to be a very difficult hill to climb to get to the point where we paid off that negative fund balance and then actually have put back a certain amount of cash. So we won't get there in my entire time in office, but we certainly will make progress. And I feel like we'll have made significant progress on paying down our debt, and we'll have established a pattern and a practice of good financial behavior, and hopefully the next administration and the next team. My goal is always to put things in place, create a culture where it's so hard to change. I actually am very pleased that our service levels have not been affected in proportion with the amount of money that we've cut, which means we have found creative ways to try to bridge the gap. We have reformed certain practices. We have brought in partners. We've done other things. So while our revenues have been down in the general fund almost 25%, most people would tell you they have not experienced a commensurate level of cuts in service. On the job side, now that's kind of the bad news. So let's just all exhale. And it is the reality, and I think to the extent that, I'm sure many of you view these circumstances like I do, it's not so much that I'm not concerned about having a problem if we're fixing it, right? So, it's unfortunate that all of these issues kind of happened all at once, coupled with the downturn in the economy and the rocket increase in certain kinds of expenses. So we had the perfect storm. That in and of itself doesn't bother me because I believe we're making progress. We at the city have really started to drill in on our industrial development strategy. And what I mean when I say that is, what can we do to help expand our industrial sector? What can we do to help attract industrial firms to this area? And then what can we do to help support the launch of new innovative industrial-based companies in Fresno? And the reason why this is so important to us is because when you think, and Blake can tell you this better than I as the workforce guy over there, when you think about the local economy and kind of the different types of businesses we have here, those that are exporting a product or service outside of our commute shed, which is about a 4-county area. So if you're making something or you're selling a service to people outside of Fresno, Madera, Tulare, or Kings, you're bringing new dollars into this community. And that's why we're so focused on, locally owned, headquartered companies that are selling something outside the commute shed. Well, when you assess the economy of Fresno, who are our biggest exporters? Well, clearly it's production ag. I mean, they dominate and really have incredible resources and an incredible just base of assets that we can leverage. So our production ag guys are awesome. We've all talked for many years about the fact that we've got to find a way to leverage this incredible asset to get higher value-added activities going on here, right? You've heard that phrase before, value-added food manufacturing, food innovation, all those kinds of things. So just imagine, we already have 150 food companies in the Fresno area. Some of them are international brands. Kraft Foods has 2 plants here. Some of them are national brands, but they're B2B. It's Lyons Magnus selling their dessert sauces to every Starbucks in the world. It's companies that you may not buy their product at the grocery store, but they are major suppliers, or they're making products for other major brands. Others of them are regional brands that are up and coming, that are $40 and $50 million companies that are right here, and they're poised for growth. They're like this right now. And while we'd love for them to be a $500 million company, the trajectory that they're on is remarkable. And those companies are right here, right now. So what we've been doing is kind of lassoing those companies, pulling them together, whether they're, beer, alcohol, wine, chocolates, nuts. I mean, you just imagine all of the products that we manufacture here in Fresno, harnessing those companies, getting them together. The first thing we did for them was the big food expo last year, right? Brought their customers right to their doorstep, let them do this trade show. Many of them got contracts or reintroduced products that they had not gotten on the shelves of grocery stores. Very successful. Well, from there, we've now leveraged that, and we're starting to promote Fresno as a location for other food-related businesses. We are so big and so diverse when it comes to food. Every commodity group or every sort of traded part of the sector has their own little association, and the fresh guys don't talk to the frozen guys, and the peach guys don't talk to the pastry people. And when you get them all together and say, okay, tell us who your suppliers are, we're going to go get them to be here in the Fresno area, there's just like this excitement that's lighting up. And while I'm the type to say, look, hold your applause till the end, let's get some results, let's see if this really works, I'm just telling you from my perspective, looking at the types of things we're doing as a city and the assets we've got, this is going to work. This is going to work. And we're starting to attract federal dollars to the area to help expand our infrastructure to support this. So all that makes me really excited and really happy, and it should make you excited as well. The third part, as you all know, we have to have a vibrant downtown. We have to have a sense of identity. We have to have the place where our city was born has to be spectacular for a couple of reasons. First of all, just from a pure financial and economic standpoint, where we are today is not just in the downtown central business district, but in the neighborhoods that surround the downtown area, the highest concentration of poverty of any other large city in the United States. Okay? That's not good for anybody. Even if you don't live there, it's not good for you. Why? Because there is a tremendous amount of public resource that is consumed in this 7,000-acre area. And it makes it really hard as the executive of the city, when I'm looking at resources and I'm figuring out how do we serve with police, fire, public works, parks, other basic municipal services, how do we service a 110 square mile area when 7,000 acres in the middle of the city is producing virtually no economic return, and yet it's consuming almost all of the resources. How do you, I mean, if you're a business and you're in that situation, you've got a business unit that is completely not delivering, for every dollar you invest, you know, you're maybe getting 25 cents return. What do? If you're a business, you either invest heavily to turn it around or you sell it. Now, we're a city. We have to consider every part of our city. And if one part is not just kind of unhealthy, but the unhealthiest part of any large city in the United States, that has to change. Let's be practical. How do we change that dynamic? Well, in the revitalization game, you take your resources, you focus them in your highest density area where you can create the most economic value, and you make changes from the inside out, right? And you have kind of concentric circles that ripple out. Now, we're not waiting until we get Fulton Corridor done, you know, and then we'll go out and do, no, you all know, we're doing blitzkrieg as much as we can. We've got neighborhood revitalization. We've repurposed our code enforcement team to specifically work with residents, property owners, community leaders, others on wholesale renovation of neighborhoods. We've seen a remarkable change in the Lowell neighborhood with just a little bit of investment. So all this is like happening at once, right? And we've got to stay the course. We got to keep the pedal to the metal. We've got to find a little bit of money to make some investments. I don't exactly have that figured out yet, but I can guarantee you when we do have a plan, it'll be smart. We're not going into debt. We may ask the public, you know, look, we spend maybe some millions of dollars every year on these activities. We want to take a piece of that and concentrate it in downtown. It means maybe some service levels will go down for a few years in other parts of the city, but look what we get if we do this right. Look at the kinds of change that we're going to have and the benefit we'll have for the entire city. So those kinds of things are still all left to be figured out. But where we are today in the process, as you all probably know from just paying attention to the news, so we spent about 1.5 years developing the Downtown Neighborhood Community Plan and then also the Fulton Corridor Specific Plan. We released the Neighborhood Plan a couple months ago, the Fulton Corridor Plan last month. Just this week, the Citizen Advisory Committee voted to send the Fulton Corridor Plan through to the EIR process. So our city manager has now authorized the EIR work to begin. We'll spend a year doing that. And roughly this time next year or early 2013, we'll be talking about policy options for Fulton Mall, and you'll all be paying attention and weighing in and helping us determine the future of that really important corridor for Fresno. And it's a really, really big deal. I wish we could wave a magic wand. I wish that in the blink of an eye we could get the results that we want, but we can't. So we've had to be aggressive but methodical. Just given the environmental issues we have to address, the very sensitive nature of many of these properties, we have to be methodical, but it'll pay off in the end. We just have to be steady and very focused, and that's what my administration has been.